Okay folks, I am done using my electric vehicle, my EV, to go out of town. I am sick of charging, waiting so long to charge, having so much trouble and so much inconvenience to charge out here. I am just tired of looking for places to charge and finding places that are just out of service or packed full of people waiting in line to charge, wasting time, etc. Yesterday, I want to tell you that I went on a out-of-town trip on my electric vehicle, thinking I'm going to save a bit of money. And the trip was about 405 kilometers, 250 miles total. And it was about 207 kilometers, 128 miles each way. And I started the trip on a 91%. When I unplugged to go on my trip, I had 91% in my battery and I had 416 kilometers, 257 indicated miles on my dashboard. Again, the trip was 207 kilometers, 128 miles each way. And I was, of course, planning to charge in the home where I was to stop to visit. And I actually went to that home. It's a family member's home. And I decided to install a level 2 or 220 volt AC charger, so I can charge a bit quicker. I visit that home quite often. So I installed that charger. However, I could not be there long enough after I installed it to charge enough. So I didn't have enough range to make it back. I actually had someone else drive the vehicle to that home location. They drove it as normal as possible, as they would drive any other ICE vehicle. So they used up quite a bit of charge. The average kilometers per kilowatt hour of charge was about 5.6 kilometers per kilowatt hour, about 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour, which is quite inefficient, quite low. I usually get about 6 to 7 kilometers per kilowatt hour. That is close to about 3.72 to 4.34 miles per kilowatt hour. And needless to say, we got there with pretty low range. I would like to say I got there with about 25%, which is roughly about 80 kilometers or about 50 miles range. So going back to the efficiency that we got from the vehicle. So we used a lot of energy on that 205 kilometers, 128 mile trip. So long story short, we got out quite late from the home to return with plans to charge somewhere along the way, since we didn't have enough range to make it back. And we got out at 8:30 at night, and I spent no less than 2.5 hours looking for a place to charge. That is just insanity at its best, and something that is absolutely unacceptable. And this is in a large city in the Atlanta area. Looking for a place to charge. The first place we went was jam-packed of people, and on top of that, they had 2 out of 4 of the chargers out of service. The 2 remaining ones were busy with people pulling at each other's clothes for a spot to charge. People are extremely rude. They try to cut in line. They see you there waiting in line and they attempt to ignore you and just cut in line. For example, I parked at a spot and then a spot next to me became open, and instead of the person that just came way after I did, instead of them offering the spot to me and say,
"Hey, look, the spot became open. I know you've been here a lot longer than I have. Do you want it? Do you want to jump on that spot?"
No, they immediately drive to that spot and pretty much give you the finger, forget about you, don't even acknowledge you and ignore you. That's how rude people are in that area. And I drive off to the next closest charger. Lo and behold, it is a slow charger, even though it says fast charger on the Google map. And I drive to no less than 2 other chargers, them being either slow chargers or out of service. I drove to no less than 4 different locations and I could not charge. Whether it's because some of the devices were out of service, it was jam-packed full of people charging, and this was late at night. This was 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. On a Saturday night, people charging like there's no tomorrow. And finally, at around 11 p.m. at night, close to 12 p.m., I find a spot, and I have trouble there as well charging. The charger stopped in the middle of charging, so I wasted even more time going back because I had stepped away to get me a bit of food, and I had to go back, restart the charging session, and I spent about $21 charging that night to add about 100 miles of range, about 162 kilometers, which is extremely expensive if you do the math. That would be about 21 cents per mile, when if I would have been driving my Prius, my Toyota Prius, I would have been paying about 6 cents per mile. Buying, I get about 55 miles per the gallon on my Toyota Prius. That's close to about 6 cents, maybe 7 cents. And to run just a mere 100 miles, I had to pay $21. That's about 21 cents. So that is a lot more than I would spend on my Prius. And that's not it. I spent a lot more than $21 because I didn't just travel 100 miles. I traveled about 280 miles total, about 260 back and forth, and then add another 20 miles or so, probably another 30, looking for a place to charge, running around town, looking for a place to charge, going from place to place, not finding a place to charge because they were either full or out of service, or there were slow chargers. And it's kind of hard to differentiate between charging stations that have slow chargers and fast chargers. You're looking at the map when you're out there on the road, trying to find a place as fast as possible, as close to you as possible. I mean, there's a lot going on, a lot of variables, and a lot of inconveniences. And this is a trend, this is a development that is very, very disturbing, where the charging network is not by any means keeping up with the amount of EVs out there. Everywhere I go, seems like more now than ever that there's always people charging at charging stations, taking up all the chargers. There's not enough chargers out there. There's not enough fast chargers, especially. Not enough even slow chargers. There's not enough chargers, period. And this is very, very disturbing. The inconvenience is extreme when you have to charge away from home, away from a place where you have a connection secured, like a private connection at somebody's house, friend's, family's house, or your own home. And that is why I am just now giving up on taking my EV out of town. I am done with that until and when the charging availability, charging spaces, charging spots, charging stations become more available. There needs to be at least half as many charging stations as there are gas stations by now. I mean, this is just insanity. There should be a fast charger, both Tesla and CCS and Chatamo, one of each at each gas station location by now. Why not? Why can't gas stations put a charger at each gas station location? Each and every one of them, if not the majority of them at least. I mean, this is just insane with the inconvenience. I got home at nearly 2 a.m. in the morning when I was supposed to get home maybe at around 10:30 if I had enough range to get home from my destination to my home. I mean, this is just extremely inconvenient and even dangerous. I was tired, exhausted, and I was on the verge of just throwing my hands up and just sleeping in the car for the night, because I was just about to run out of charge completely and not find a charging spot where I can sit there and charge. And if I didn't find that one fast charging station, I would have been stuck with settling or having to slow charge or just spending the night there and just think about it the next day, about a rescue, calling someone, calling some sort of tow truck, have the car towed to the next available charging station. I mean, this is just very frustrating. And the cities, towns, governments, businesses need to get their act together. They need to embrace EVs. They're out here. People are buying them. Even if there is a slump, a slowdown here this year with EV sales, they are still being pumped out, being sold, being bought, being driven out here. Too many EV drivers are here and so little charging stations. There needs to be a lot more of them, and they need to be a lot cheaper than they are right now, because it is extremely expensive and unaffordable as compared with very high efficient combustion vehicles to drive electric. Long distance, that is. If you're going to charge out there for a fee and you need to charge fast, it is expensive. It is a lot of times more expensive than driving a very efficient gasoline vehicle. And when I say very efficient, I mean only about 35, 40 miles per gallon. If you have a vehicle that could do 35 to 40 miles per gallon, you are already in a lot better position economically than driving an electric vehicle when you have to charge away from home. This is just the case, and it is unacceptable. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this podcast.
please look for the next episode soon, and please ensure to share this with your friends and family. And please like this content and subscribe as a sign of support and for me to continue to provide this type of content to more people like you. Lastly, if you wish to support this content further, please visit the links provided in this publication. Thank you.